This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. You might want to share this with people to get the word out about how many coincidences are supposedly happening at once, which are not coincidences. And of course, we know that they were just trying to, kill off the population with some of the things that they were doing. Well, here's a new method that we're seeing with them over and over and over again, from Maui now all the way over here to Florida, where we know that they're getting hit with Hurricane Idalia. So isn't it convenient that in Maui, when people tried to flee Lahaina, that the government had roadblocks up and sent people back into the burning area? Well, how about here in Florida, as people prepared for the hurricane? What did they go do? Well, they said, hey, we better get gas in our cars so we can get out of here. Up, not so fast, because they already had something in place to make sure they trapped everybody in Florida. This is beyond belief. This is one of the most unbelievably obvious stories I've ever seen. But conveniently, when people went to the gas station, you ever hear of this? They were getting contaminated gas. Yeah, wow, just in time for the hurricane. At the same exact time the hurricane is hitting, the gas stations are giving out contaminated gas because, that's just a mere coincidence, just bad timing, of course. And it was blamed on what? Human error, because somebody mixed diesel gasoline with regular gasoline. And what happens then? Well, your car will break down. Your car will not run. Your engine will suffer from issues, and your car will just pull out on the side. You'll have to pull over on the side of the road, and you won't be able to flee. Thus, you'll be trapped in the eye of a hurricane. Is this not one of the most unbelievable stories you've ever seen of all the days? Not to mention the fact that, has anybody ever heard of this, widespread fuel contamination? Is this a normal thing? I've never in my life heard of something like this happening. Now, of course, it can happen apparently, but I've never heard it. I've never heard a story. Hey, did you hear the gas station up the road? Or they've got contaminated gas. Or somebody that their engine went, and they were like, what happened? They're like, some idiot put diesel fuel and mixed it with gas and put it into my car. No one's ever heard it before, but now it's so widespread that multiple gas stations had this same issue right in time for Hurricane Idalia, where widespread fuel contamination is forcing people to stay in the middle of the hurricane. Look at this.
Keith, really bad timing here. This tainted gas, we're told, can stop your car in its tracks. Tonight, we are learning at least one worker made a big mistake.
It has nothing to do with the storm, but it's happening right on the eve of the storm.
Tonight, as Floridians brace for a hurricane, concerned some drivers could be stranded. State officials inspecting nearly 30 gas stations, including 13 in Tampa Bay. They say fuel supplied by Citgo was contaminated, and it can potentially damage your engine. If you filled up at one of the stations after 10 a.m. on Saturday, beware.
It was Saturday afternoon, actually, about 2 o'clock.
Your car's been acting funny.
Yeah, it's been...
It'll hiccup, run a little rough maybe, spit and sputter.
If and when you hit car trouble, auto experts say find a safe spot and pull over. So how did this happen? 8 on Your Side has learned the contamination occurred at the Citgo terminal at Port of Tampa. The cause? Human error. The Port of Tampa Bay provides nearly half the fuel for the entire state of Florida. They are a major energy gateway. While Citgo is located here, port officials tell me they have nothing to do with Citgo. They say that Citgo owns the land, they hire the people, and any questions about what went wrong should be directed to the company. Tonight, a Citgo spokesman tells me they're, quote, conducting a complete review of the, quote, product routing issue at the terminal. Wilton Simpson, Florida's agriculture commissioner, is charged with investigating. He says that his agency has received more than 1,600 complaints thus far from consumers.
My office will obtain all of the records and just determine what went wrong. Clearly, we don't want this to happen again. Citgo has been very forthright in this issue.
Okay, so that car repair expert that I talked with, he says if your car gets damaged, it can be really expensive. That's why he says immediately pull over. So we are trying to find out, well, who picks up the bill if this happens? Citgo tells me they'll do it. They're asking that you initiate a claim through their website. I put all the information on our website. And guys, Commissioner Simpson tells me they're going to make sure that happens and the consumers aren't left with potentially a huge bill. 1,600 complaints.
Nightmare timing, absolutely. And what is the state doing? Did they make the station stop selling the potentially bad gas?
Yes, they say they did. And I talked with one owner immediately when they found out. They made them stop selling this bad gas. The commissioner says they'll be inspecting and testing. They have been inspecting and testing the gas. They hope to be done by tomorrow at the latest. So first they're focused on reopening all the gas stations because there's 13 in Tampa that are closed right now. Then they're going to look at accountability and what went wrong here.
You literally you couldn't make this up. If you were writing a movie, okay, this probably would still be out of the realm of possibility. If you were like, we're writing a movie like The Day After Tomorrow, we're writing a hurricane movie, a storm movie, or Twister or something, right? Remember in Twister with the tornadoes, they were, monitoring the tornadoes and then they had to run from the tornadoes, right? Well, imagine in Twister, they're monitoring tornadoes and they're like, oh, the car won't start. You would just be like, oh, give me a break. It's like a horror movie with like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees chasing after the person and then conveniently their car doesn't start. And everybody in the theater's laughing because they're going, oh, give me a break. What are the odds their car doesn't start right now? Or the front door doesn't lock as Michael Myers is walking in, right? Well, you wouldn't even be able to write this in Hollywood because if somebody read the script, they'd say, that's too unbelievable and too obviously, just too scripted. It makes our story here look too scripted and too fake. Well, they don't need to do it in the movies because they're doing it day to day in real life. They're trapping people. As, of course, if the headlines about the hurricane weren't enough to wake people up, then I don't really know what is other than this story. Because we had stories like a small shift in Idalia's projected path could dramatically affect Tampa. Oh, a small shift in the path, right? And then what did I cover yesterday again? And what have I covered over the years? Showing you about how they can control the weather. All these guys openly, these scientists, Neil deGrasse Tyson, these people we're supposed to trust and talking about, well, you can control the weather to a point, but, you might not be able to directly control the exact location. But, we don't want to blame it on scientists and error and experiments, et cetera. We want to blame it on carbon dioxide, of course. But clearly they shifted the path of it because this is exactly where they wanted to go, which was very close to Tampa. And what was going on really close to Tampa? Well, that's where these gas stations were suffering from these issues, right? Now, for those of you who are like, well, all right, that is a little bit suspicious. Okay, I might need more. Well, let's talk about Maui then. Because if you're not familiar with the fact that, number one, okay, if you don't want to believe the direct energy weapon, which is crazy if you don't, how about the fact that they barricaded people in and turned them right back into the fire? And who was responsible for that? Oh, right, the deputy, the sheriff, whatever you want to call him, is the same guy who happened to be in this Las Vegas tragedy a few years ago, then decided he was going to leave Las Vegas and go to Maui, and then this just followed him there. Take a look at the thing in Maui, of course, with one of our best crisis actors or best actors, this sheriff deputy guy.
I'm from Lahaina. And Jeremy, you've been there speaking with survivors.
That's right. And I am at that critical intersection where the public is asking which roads were closed, which roads were not in the hours of 4 and 5 p.m. on August the 8th. Now, this is where I am. This is Keawe Street that you see. It leads up to the bypass. We know that at 3:30 p.m., the bypass was closed down. Now, Keawe Street going down leads into the Cannery Mall. You have the Cannery Mall, and then across the street on Honoaupilani Highway, which runs northbound, of course, you have Lahaina Gateway. So again, we're looking at Honoaupilani Highway as the primary exit from Lahaina town. We do know that there were downed power lines and that at some point Honoaupilani Highway was closed. I have spoken to survivors who told me they were directed down Keawe Street and into the Cannery. Now, the only way to get out of the Cannery Mall on the other side is Front Street, leading to more congestion and backup. I'm going to zoom in for a second, get behind the camera, and to show you what I mean. Now, I did talk to the police chief. You're going to hear from him in just a moment. And I asked him specifically about Keawe Street because according to those survivors, the evacuees, traffic was directed exactly down here where you see the roadblock right now and the National Guard standing by, funneled into the Cannery Mall. And of course, the other end is Front Street, which we know was backed up terribly in those critical hours. Have a listen to what the police chief said when I asked him about road closures and whether we would get more information about how fire and the police department were communicating on that day.
We want to get people out. And so let me answer it like this. There is going to be a very detailed long after action. It might be the longest after action that's ever been. Every data point is going to be scrubbed and looked at and meticulously gone through. We're actively trying to recover people. It's our community. It's our people too. And so I say that is, let us right now do what we need to do and let the after action do what it needs to do. But I can tell you that we did everything we can to make sure that we preserve life and protect each other. And so we've already found that some of the false reports on the direction of travel were not correct. We were getting people out of the area. We were forcing people not to go at a certain point down Front Street because it had already gotten too late. And so the efforts were to get people away from the fire and away from the danger.
So they weren't directed down County.
They were not directed toward the danger.
I can tell you, and I agree with the chief, I'm happy to answer all these questions when the right time comes, which is when the after action and investigation comes about, what we knew when we knew it. You folks know a lot more information today than we knew on that day. Everybody's taking information after the fact and applying it to then and asking how come we didn't know back then what we know today, because the answer is we didn't know back then what we know today.
And that was the mayor responding to my question also about the live interview that the mayor gave with KITV4 in the 6 p.m. hour at 6:03 p.m. on Tuesday the 8th. People had already fled into the water to escape the flames a half hour earlier at 5:30. The mayor acknowledging the gap in receiving real-time information. Now back here at Keawe Street where I am standing, this is what I asked the police chief about. You heard him say we directed people away from danger, but the question is, did they direct people into a traffic bottleneck? We will continue to follow this story because people have been messaging me. They want to know answers. We're going to talk to more survivors, and we did put out a call for more video of blockades and more video of the situation as it unfolded.
So they're trapping people. That's the narrative that we're seeing here. They are trapping people. Now, the fact that they're blaming it on human error is very, very laughable because this was not a human error. This, of course, was human created on purpose by these people who are responsible. I'm sure Citgo is, the executives there gave the orders and passed them down to their local Mason lodges or whoever's working at the gas station or whoever happened to deliver it. It was just a guy, dressed up in one of the Citgo driver's suits, I'm sure. And bada bing, bada boom, right? And of course, what is the other thing that this does? Because the stories are going to come out as this hurricane approaches. It's hitting, as of me recording this, it's beginning, right? Stories are going to come out about how people weren't able to evacuate because of the gas being contaminated. So what is it? What is the subliminal messaging there? Go electric, right? Now, they're not going to tell you that, well, if you had an electric car and all the stories about electric vehicles that are stuck in hurricanes, that they explode because lithium's not supposed to get drenched or wet. So when these cars are sitting in, in the garage with their lithium batteries and the houses flood, that these homes are going to burn down and blow up. And they're just going to say it's just a direct effect of the flooding. They're not going to mention the lithium batteries that these cars have inside of them and how dangerous they are. Only people like me will mention that. So subliminally, they'll say, well, this is another problem with gas, contamination, right? With an electric vehicle, they would have been able to escape. When the reality is, even if they had an electric vehicle that didn't explode, they wouldn't be able to get very far without a recharge, right? But it's subliminal programming about the dangers of gas or the struggles with gas or the hiccups with gas. We need to go electric all of a sudden. And they just beat it into people's heads whatever way they possibly can. So they've trapped people. And that seems to be the newest thing. Hit them with weaponized weather and trap them. Trap them wherever they are. So that way we don't just take their homes from them. We could also take their lives from them. That's what their hope is. Hopefully these people have to go right back into the eye of the hurricane and they won't be able to drive anywhere. So they'll have to get out of their car. And hopefully we can just wipe them away in the floods that we create. Right? See how this is working? Because remember, they didn't get as many people as they hoped in their last experiment to kill off the population. Now, of course, we know more and more people are going to, be willingly lining up like the zombies they are. And, I'm at a point now where I'm like, well, if you're still in on this, in the beginning, I was like, hey, and I can't talk in deep detail about it. I can only talk about it on the website, uprisingrevival.com. For those of you that are new, this is the type of stuff that'll get you thrown off the internet. So I'll just say it in, code. But, a lot of people out there in the beginning who were going and getting tricked into taking a certain something, I felt bad for them. I know specific people, they got worked into the psychological op. Even with Trump in the beginning, because it was his, he was the one who rolled it out. But at this point, anyone who's lining up, I have no sympathy for whatever happens. And I'm actually, if the worst happens, the worst happens. Because we know which people are going to be the ones doing it. And obviously, I still would feel bad for the elderly. But at this point, if they don't get it, then, then what's the point? They're living useless existences where they can't think freely and can't think for themselves and can't see the obvious right in front of their faces. So anyway, that'll be another way they wipe people out. But how about this with the weaponized weather? Not just hitting people with weaponized weather, trapping them. Could it be more obvious that that's what they're doing? Trapping people? Setting state of emergencies, and then people who want to flee in their cars can't get anywhere because they're contaminating the gasoline, or even more crazier. I don't know which is crazier. You tell me in the comment section. The fact that they're contaminating the gas and then acting like this is a normal occurrence, which no one's ever heard of before, or in Maui, people running from fire and then having barricades in the road and sending them back. And of course you hear everyone's confused. They're like, well, the sheriff said they sent him on a different route. And then the guy's like, oh, well, did you know that route was they just sent him into a backup hole where they were just stuck in traffic and sitting ducks to get lit on fire? Like all the cars that we saw where they were just bumper to bumper burnt in the streets. I don't know. You tell me which one seems just more insane. They're pretty equal, right? It's pretty equal. So let me just give you a little rundown here. The gas was contaminated with diesel fuel, and it could harm engines and make them inoperable, just as Floridians seek gas for evacuations or generators. And like I said with the electric vehicle, it's not just a subliminal mind control method. If they start doing this around the country where they contaminate gas, your car is going to become defunct. That means you're going to fill up your car, you're going to drive somewhere. You could be somebody who's like, I'm never getting an electric vehicle, ever, like me, right? And your car breaks down for good because the engine is shot. It's gone because they poisoned the gasoline. You won't be able to sue them, by the way, because they won't be able to pinpoint. They'll be like, we don't know. Could have been gas from here. Could have been gas. And again, they're not. There's no way you're going to be able to sue them and get any money out of them or get anything out of them. A new car, forget it. The insurance won't cover it, right? So then what do? They'll come in and say, well, we're not selling gas-powered cars anymore. Only electric, because all these companies, of course, who are in on it, like Ford and General Motors, etc. They're all in on it. So what do they come out and they say? Well, they say, we're not making gas cars anymore. They're not good for the environment. But we have electric cars, and we'll give you if your car broke down, we'll give you an electric vehicle. We'll help you out. We'll give you a big we'll give you a government grant. What are these things that they're doing? The government's handing out like $10,000 write-offs if you get an electric vehicle. This is just another way they're enforcing the electric vehicle on people. They're just if you're not gonna comply and get the electric vehicle, then they're just gonna destroy your car. And you're going to have to take a chance because you're going to have to get gas to run your car. So you'll never know where they're doing this at. And then when your car breaks down, whatever, we're just sabotaging your engines. Now you got to go electric. This is where it's going to head. Exactly where it's going to head. So they're not just going to be trapping people in spots where they're hitting them with weaponized weather. They're also going to be sabotaging their car so that when they want to get a new car, they won't be able to get a new car because the only cars being sold will be electric cars. So then people who are holding out saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to get 3 gas-powered cars. I'm going to keep them for the rest of my life. No, because the next time you go get gas, you don't know if they're going to be poisoning your car and destroying it and forcing you to an electric vehicle. It's absolutely unbelievable. So Florida officials warning of potentially widespread fuel contamination that may have resulted in people getting fuel from some Florida gas stations that could harm or disable their engines, just as Tropical Storm, which is now Hurricane Idalia, may put residents on the road or in search of gas to power their generators. Oh, right. I forgot about that because I was thinking maybe they have propane jet. Right. If you have a natural gas, if you have generator, like a Generac, a big one that would just run your whole home with natural gas, that's one thing. But if you have one in your garage, right, and you're just saying, hey, the power's going to be out for a couple weeks, I could use it every day just to get water or just to pump water if I have well water or whatever. Heat food, keep my refrigerator going. Oh, okay, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to do that either. right? So this works really conveniently when they cut the power and then you say, well, I have a backup plan, I have a generator. No, you don't, because now the gasoline can also destroy your generator. Wow, incredible. So this is just obviously all coincidental, isn't it? I mean, there's no way that this is a formulated plan by these people. This is just all coincidence happening at the same time as a hurricane's coming in. Unbelievable. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services issued an alert Sunday afternoon stating that gas that was supplied out of Port Tampa Bay by Citgo had become contaminated because of human error. And again, as you heard in the video, Tampa Bay, as you see in the screenshot, conveniently, the storm suddenly is like making a veer towards Tampa Bay. Wow, and that's where the gas happened. I mean, don't you love coincidences? It's a crazy world. Crazy the amount of coincidences that are happening, right? If you're so blind that you can't see through the coincidences, I mean, what is the point for you at this point, really? I mean, is there a pointing going on? I mean, do you feel any emotion? Do you have anything going on in your head? Any sense whatsoever? I mean, these are not coincidences, clearly. I'm being sarcastic. This is a strategic attack on the American people. And they're using the boogeyman. And, conveniently, all of these things that are happening just tie into all their agendas, right? Oh my goodness, the gas-powered cars and the gas-powered generators, none of them are going to work because the gas is contaminated. We hate gas, says the government, right? We love electric, and we'll buy you your new electric vehicle just so you go electric. And then we can, of course, shut your car off or blow it up as we please, Don't mention about how the fact that people with electric cars in Florida right now, if they're going to get flooded, are probably going to have their houses blow up, because that's a pretty common theme with electric vehicles and hurricanes. So, ladies and gentlemen, you tell me how coincidental it can get. Now, I recommend you share this video with people so that they can maybe just look at this and be like, yeah, that's a little bit weird. Because it's not just, Maui keeping you trapped in there. Then you got Florida keeping you trapped. You also throw in the agendas with gas, right? It's all just a little too convenient, isn't it? Or is it too coincidental? Or, are we going to start waking up and realize that a government who calls us its own people terrorists because they don't agree with their ideologies, their own government is actually attacking us? So maybe at some point we should do something about it and wake people up and maybe do more, okay? So share this with people. Reminder, please subscribe to my backup channel so you have it. It's very, very important you do that now, because this video probably will get a strike. At any moment I can get one. It could be something like this. It could be something like talking about Madonna, for all I know. I've gotten strikes talking about Jared Leto, the world's worst actor. And, for bullying. Apparently they could be bullied by criticizing them, of course, because they're very sensitive, weak human beings, like most of these people we're living among. So please subscribe to my backup channels, and please join uprisingrevival.com if you haven't yet. There is a lot of stuff coming this fall, really in a week or two, that people need to know about, especially the mandates, etc. I cannot talk about it here. I will not talk about it here because I'm just asking to get taken down, and I'm not going through that again. But that's what the website's for. It's $2.99 a month. I understand some people out there, they say they can't afford it. Who am I to say whether they can or can't? It's the price of a bottle of water, a price of a McDonald's hamburger for a month's worth of unlimited content. The forum is completely full of activeness. Is that a word? People are actively posting all the time in the forum, sharing real information, real news. Okay, that's not going to get taken down like on Facebook or on YouTube. So I recommend people get over there. And again, I have exclusive videos over there if you like my content where it can be uncensored. So check out the website, uprisingrevival.com. It's linked below. I also have a Patreon for anyone out there that wants to support the channel. A lot of people ask how they can. Those are all there. But please, at the very least, subscribe to the other channels and share this video. Wake people up. It's getting way too obvious at this point. And if you don't see it, you're really, really, well, what's the word? Dumb. Thanks again for being here, everybody. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.